So this secret is what allowed me to finally play some of the hardest songs on guitar. All of the greatest guitar players have one thing in common. It's the way that they practice. You see, good guitar players think like engineers. When they can't do something, they reverse engineer the problem and fix it from the ground up, one step at a time.
Now my right hand immediately starts to tense up as soon as I encounter that inside of the string technique, and I think it's because I feel like I'm sort of trapped and I have no range of motion. This is usually a problem for most guitar players. How do you practice this? How do you get around this? Well, very simply, you just practice the motion that you're having a problem with. So what I've done is I've come up with a little etude that practices and concentrates on the inside of the string picking.
It's not so much that these prodigy guitar players that you see are gifted. It's more that they're addicted to problem solving. It's extremely rewarding to them. I call this type of problem solving practice deliberate practice, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in this video. It does require patience, but as you get better at it, you will become addicted to the process of problem solving as opposed to the outcome, which is ironically what will make you a much better guitar player in the first place. So let's get started. The underlying principle of deliberate practice is this. When you can't play something, you have to figure out why. That's it. That's the main principle. Then you have to systematically solve the problem. Let me expound. You need to develop the awareness of where mistakes are happening and why they are happening. Only then can you actually fix them. And believe it or not, most people don't even know exactly where they're making mistakes, and they definitely don't know why. They just compulsively repeat things over and over at much too high speeds, and that's their practice session. This isn't problem solving. This is just throwing up a prayer and repeating things over and over, hoping it sticks. So today, I'm going to show you what deliberate practice looks like as I problem solve through a piece of music by Guthrie Govan. It's extremely hard, and so you'll get a good idea of what it looks like to engage in deliberate practice. Alright, so this is from a piece of music called Lost in Rio by Guthrie Govan, and it's an extremely fast line, and it sounds like this. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to engage with what I consider to be my comfort speed. And the only way to gauge this is to use a metronome. So we're going to use a metronome to basically keep track of where we're at and at what speeds things start to fall apart. Remember, the underlying principle of deliberate practice is to figure out why and then systematically fix the problem. So this is 100 beats per minute, 16th notes. This is a comfort speed. It's not too much of a problem for me at this speed. It does feel a little bouncy. I know that at high speeds that I'm not going to be able to have that much bounce in my right hand. So after I've established my comfort speed, I need to speed it up until things start falling apart a little bit. And that's where I need to start figuring out why I'm making the mistakes and start zooming in and systematically fixing my mistakes one at a time. 145. Okay, good. Now we're at a speed which things are falling apart a little bit. So let's start out with a few notes. I know that I can do the first 5 notes. Okay, there it is. When I start going into the backtrack and then into the next note, that's where things start falling apart. So right here is where the problem is. I need to fix this. There's no point in me compulsively, obsessively, and chronically just trying to repeat the whole sequence at this speed, just hoping it gets better. Okay, this is what most people do. We can't do this here. What we have to do is we have to pinpoint the mistake. It's this. It's that specific exchange. This, because it's in between strings and that's difficult for me. The first 5 notes, they're not hard. Okay, it's that exchange. So that's what I need to be working on here with the metronome at this speed, because this is the speed at which it falls apart. And that's where I'm going to stop. I've pinpointed a very specific spot. I'm not going to let my mind get sidetracked and go way past the sequence. The specific spot I'm pinpointing is this. Because that's where that back and forth exchange is happening. Now, it's not enough just to repeat this over and over again either. This is where deliberate practice comes into play, and I start asking why. Why am I making a mistake here? Well, if I look at my right hand, at this speed, I have to really get to this string and then back to this string without too much movement. If my hand starts going up way too far like this, then it starts getting choppy. So what I need to focus on here is I need to focus on going from this note to this note back to this note with minimal movement. And that takes a really concerted effort and an amount of concentration. So in fact, I'm gonna skip this first part because I already know I can do that. I'm gonna start here, I'm gonna go. I might do that actually. I might start here and go like that. That feels pretty easy, so I'm gonna start combining it now. It's when I start combining it that it feels a little uncomfortable. So I'm going to pause the metronome. Sometimes you have to pause the metronome. You have to really work out and watch your hand and see if you can work out how can I make this as minimal movement as possible while maintaining my speed. And some things that I'm noticing, you'll notice that really good players start thinking about this sort of thing, which is I'm noticing that basically I have to make it so that my pick barely misses strings as it's transitioning to new strings. That it's almost hitting the strings and sounding sloppy, but it's barely missing like this. And to be able to accomplish this like razor close proximity with the plane of the strings, I have to focus on this feeling of having contact with the plane of the strings with the side of my thumb right here, okay? And that feeling of that point of contact is what reminds me to, stay that close to the plane of the strings. I can feel that point of contact the whole time. So I turn the metronome back on and I focus on that point of contact feeling. And at this point, after I repeat it so many times in a row, I start to burn out a little bit. I need to take a little bit of a rest because staying that relaxed and staying that close to the plane of the strings at this high of a speed is foreign to me. And so I need to give myself a little breaks in between. So again, in summary, deliberate practice is you have to zoom into a very small portion of the song where you're actually making the mistake. You have to figure out why you're making it. And then you have to start problem solving one little detail, one little mistake at a time, and then build upon that.